Okay, so we've discovered that we have a formula that we can use to calculate the area of a triangle using two sides and the angle in between them. And you've probably done some examples where you're given two sides and an angle and you've used the formula to work out the area. So I'm going to give a few examples here where it's the kind of other way around, where the information that you're given includes the area, but we don't know one of the sides or the angle, and we're going to have to work with that. It's fairly routine thing when we work out an area. So we work out when we're given a formula to use, that sometimes we don't actually need to work out the subject of the formula, but indeed one of the variables on the right hand side. So the normal practice is do what you can with the formula that you've been given and then rearrange it if necessary. So in this question here, we're told that we've got a triangle PQR, and we're told that the area is 23.3 square centimetres. So we already know the area of the triangle. We know that one of the sides is 8 centimetres long and the angle is 32. What is missing then would be the length of this side, because it has to be, the formula relies on having the two sides on either side of the angle. So what we can do is we can go ahead and write down the formula. I've got the formula is kind of A, B, and C. You can write it in terms of the letters that you've got in this triangle here. It doesn't really matter, to be honest, as long as you use the correct numbers in the formula. So I'm going to go ahead and write it in terms of P, Q, and R. It's the angle P that we know. So my area here is going to be a half times, well, this is side R and this is side Q. So it's going to be a half times Q times R times the sine of angle P. But as I said, it doesn't really matter if you don't use the letters that are there. It's good practice, but what we would normally do is then we'd put all the numbers in on the right hand side. We'd normally be given Q and R and the angle, but if you notice this time, we don't have anything alongside the Q. That's okay. And R is 8, and sine, well, it's the sine of 32 degrees. And this time, instead of just being an A on the left hand side, we actually know that the area is 23.3, so we can actually put that in. So the thing that we don't know is this value of Q. So how do we go ahead and work that out? Well, what I would normally suggest is that you work out the numbers on kind of either say you've got a half and 8 there times sine 32. You can actually take your calculator and you can work out all the multiplication on the right hand side that you know. So I'm going to put in a half, 0.5 times 8 times the sine of 32. Do that in my calculator and I get 2.1196. So that's Q, because I haven't included that, times 2.1196, well, 2.120 to 3 decimal places. So you can actually multiply all the numbers that you do know on the right hand side, leaving us just with the Q to multiply it. And we know from our algebra that if we want to get that Q on its own, we have to, just get rid of that for a moment. We want to divide both sides by the number, which in this case is 2.12. So we divide that side by 2.12, which means that when we're actually working out the value of Q itself, Q is going to be, these cancel out, and we're left with 23.3 divided by 2.12, which if you take your calculator again and work out 23.3 divided by 2.12, works out 10.99. Q equals 10.99. What does it give it? 10.990. So you could, depending on how you want to round it, maybe round it to one decimal place, which in actual fact is going to take us up to 11. And the actual question said calculate the length of PR. So I'm going to swap Q, small q, for capital PR, just so that I'm answering the question. PR equals 11.0 centimeters to 1 decimal place. Okay, so if you're using the area formula and you're given the area but you don't know a side or an angle, you go ahead and use the formula as it is, and then you rearrange to find the side or the angle that you don't know. I hope that's helpful, and I'll give an example with the angle one as well, so you can look for that if you're just unsure about finding out an unknown angle. Okay.